It is the trend that has taken over every fitness influencer's feed. You've seen the videos, the dramatic music, the slow-motion entry into the freezing water, the visible breath, and the caption claiming it's the ultimate biohack for recovery. We've been told for years that if you want to be a serious athlete, you need to ice out the pain. We are told that inflammation is the enemy, and the faster we kill it, the faster we grow. Welcome to Dr. Levitas. But by jumping into that ice bath immediately after your heavy lifting session, you are quite literally freezing your progress in time. What if the very inflammation you are trying to destroy is the biological key required to unlock your muscle growth? Today, we are going to look at the cold, hard science of recovery. We are going to explain why the ice bath trend is actually ruining your gains, and why, if you want to get bigger and stronger, you should be reaching for the heat, not the ice. To understand why ice is killing your hypertrophy, we first have to redefine our relationship with inflammation. In our modern world, inflammation has become a dirty word. We associate it with chronic disease, joint pain, and metabolic decay. And while chronic, systemic inflammation is indeed a disaster, acute inflammation, the short-term, localized response to a stressor, is a biological miracle. When you lift heavy weights, you are intentionally damaging your muscle fibers. You are creating mechanical tension and metabolic stress. This damage triggers an immediate, localized inflammatory cascade. Your body floods the area with signaling molecules called cytokines and white blood cells like neutrophils and macrophages. This inflammation isn't a mistake, it is the alarm system. It is the exact signal that tells your body, hey, we were not strong enough to handle this load comfortably. We need to repair this tissue and make it bigger and more resilient for next time. If you don't have that inflammatory spike, your body never receives the message to grow. No fire, no firefighters. No inflammation, no hypertrophy. This is where the post-workout ice bath becomes a metabolic disaster. When you submerge your body in 40-degree water immediately after training, you are creating massive, systemic vasoconstriction. You are essentially shutting down the blood flow to your muscles to protect your core temperature. But more importantly, you are interfering with the master regulator of muscle growth, the mTOR pathway. mTOR, or mammalian target of rapamycin, is the biological switch that turns on protein synthesis. Extensive clinical research, including a landmark 2015 study published in the Journal of Physiology, demonstrated that cold water immersion immediately after resistance training significantly blunts the activation of the mTOR pathway. By icing your muscles, you are effectively putting a do not disturb sign on your cellular machinery. You are cooling down the chemical reactions required to build new muscle protein. You might feel less sore the next day because you've numbed the nerves and suppressed the swelling, but you have paid for that lack of soreness with a complete lack of adaptation. You've successfully recovered back to your previous baseline, instead of growing past it. If you think this is just theoretical, the long-term data is even more sobering. Researchers have looked at what happens to lifters who use ice baths consistently over several weeks versus those who use active recovery or nothing at all. A 2019 meta-analysis and a subsequent study in the Journal of Applied Physiology found that athletes using regular post-workout ice baths saw significantly smaller gains in muscle mass and strength. In some trials, the ice bath group saw up to a 20% reduction in muscle fiber hypertrophy compared to the control group. Think about that. You are doing the grueling work in the gym, you are pushing through the pain, but because of a 10-minute ice bath, you are leaving 20% of your potential gains on the table. You're training like a lion but recovering like a lamb. The ice is a thief of your hard-earned effort. Does this mean ice baths are completely useless? Absolutely not. But we have to understand the difference between muscle recovery and central nervous system, or CNS, recovery. Ice baths are a phenomenal tool for CNS reset. If you are an athlete in the middle of a multi-day tournament, say, You have to play 3 games of basketball in 4 days, hypertrophy doesn't matter. What matters is performance. You need to dampen the pain, reset your nervous system, and get back on the court. In that context, ice is a master tool. But for the person looking to build a better physique and maximize strength, the correct time to use an ice bath is at least 4 to 6 hours after your workout, or better yet, on a completely separate rest day. By waiting, you allow the natural inflammatory spike to complete its job of signaling the growth pathways. Once the signal is sent, you can then use the cold to manage systemic stress without sabotaging your local muscle gains. If ice is the gains killer, heat is the muscle amplifier. This is why you see the world's most elite strength athletes and bodybuilders spending significant time in the sauna. While cold water immersion constricts and suppresses, heat therapy, specifically the sauna, expands and stimulates. When you step into a 180 degrees Fahrenheit sauna post-workout, you're triggering a completely different biological cascade. Instead of shutting down blood flow, the heat causes massive vasodilation. Your heart rate increases, and your body floods your muscles with nutrient-rich, oxygenated blood. This increased circulation helps to naturally flush out metabolic waste like lactate and hydrogen ions without blunting the inflammatory signal. You're supporting the repair process, not stopping it. But the real magic of heat happens at the cellular level through the production of heat shock proteins. When your body is exposed to the intense thermal stress of a sauna, your cells produce these specialized chaperone proteins. Heat shock proteins have a very specific job. They prevent protein degradation and facilitate the repair of damaged proteins. In a 2007 study, researchers found that intermittent heat stress significantly increased the rate of muscle regrowth in rats by up to 30%. In humans, heat shock proteins help to stabilize the actin and myosin filaments we've discussed in previous videos, ensuring that the muscle fibers you tore down in the gym are rebuilt faster and stronger. Heat therapy doesn't just feel good, it is a structural reinforcement for your muscular architecture. Finally, we have to look at the mechanical advantage of localized heat. As we learned in our videos on marbled meat and insulin resistance, muscle health is entirely dependent on blood flow. If a muscle is cold and tight, the supply lines are closed. By utilizing heat therapy post-workout, you're keeping the metabolic window for nutrient delivery wide open. The heat ensures that the amino acids from your post-workout protein shake and the glucose from your carbohydrates are actually delivered to the muscle belly. It keeps the tissue supple and prevents the formation of the stiff, fibrotic scar tissue that can lead to nagging injuries. Heat therapy is the ultimate active recovery without the movement. It provides the cardiovascular benefits of a light walk while you sit still and allow your body to focus entirely on the anabolic repair process. Here is the doctor's verdict: respect the biology of acute inflammation. We have to stop following trends just because they look hard on social media. The ice bath has its place in the world of professional sports, but if your goal is to build the most powerful, muscular, and resilient version of yourself, you must respect the biology of inflammation. Stop freezing your gains. Allow the fire of training to trigger the repair, and then use the power of heat to amplify that repair. Step out of the ice, step into the heat, and watch your body finally respond to the work you've been putting in. Stay warm, train hard, and I will see you in the next video. Watch this video suggestion, it was especially picked for you. Also share, comment, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. It helps a ton with the algorithm. Remain tuned for future videos to empower your health and fitness journey. So, stay healthy, stay happy, and keep going.